left and right at all the other people at the retirement village that we're going to make sure you go to when you're 65, and and everybody else is going to be having a hard time with just living, but like, man, you're going to be able to go do whatever you want to because you've put in the time, which is, I think, is, man, that's awesome.
Within the boundaries of my village, apparently.
Yeah.
Paul, is that a Hooey
do
shirt?
That more often, if we're honest.
Dude, this is a Hooey shirt. I'm all Hooey out today.
I like that color. Dude, I love it.
I love this color.
What shorts you got? Like the golf shorts?
Yeah, just the black ones.
Yeah.
Wearing a short sleeve button up, or is that a long sleeve button up?
No, it's a short sleeve.
Oh, okay.
No, but I did get I
the
got
long sleeve would be even better.
I got 2 long sleeves, and they're gonna double as they're like the same color as like the Wrangler denim shirts, but they
are the flyest blue shirts I've ever seen.
Yeah, it feels like you're not wearing a shirt. They're so lightweight, and then like they can double as fishing shirts or something.
Fishing shirts, dress shirts,
super breathable.
All of the things.
I mean, like they're literally an all-around shirt. They got the pearl snaps, so they look good.
And they can look starched too, because they have the buttons on the collars make those collars stand up perfect. So it's like
there's a button on the inside.
Yeah.
So it stands up. It doesn't like all lay over like other fishing shirts do.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So, dude, and the shorts are like unreal. I have a hard time finding pants that fit my legs.
Mm-hmm.
I have rather large thighs and a athletic butt, and so like
that
pants
ass
just in general don't fit. Yeah, and the Hooey jeans fit perfect. It's like they made them for that. And the shorts are the exact same way. As soon as I put them on, I was like, they fit my waist and they're not squeezing my legs. I was like, holy crap. And also very lightweight. They got the stretch to them.
They're so light,
double
dude.
As athletic shorts or dress shorts. You got belt loops to go with them. So, dude,
I can vouch for you on the jeans. Those jeans are like wearing sweatpants is what they feel like when you put them on. I was like, oh my, when I tried them on, Richie told me about them. Well, he was making fun of my other jeans that I had. I was on this kick where
you're wearing like rustlers or something.
Yeah, I got some $9. I rip jeans and tear them up, and I'm so sick of this. So I bought some $9 Rural King jeans. And they're, on the tighter side, like really tight, and so we're in the locker room.
Really tight.
He was like, I have one question for you. The only question I really need to know is how many Champion Living team members did it take for you to get those pants on this morning? And I was like, okay, all right. So I knew that they were kind of tight, but that tells me that they are really tight. And he's like, dude, you need to get some of these Hooey jeans. And I'm like, okay, well, I have 4 kids, $70 for a pair of jeans.
They are really the best.
And I went and tried them on at the Western store here. And then Doug got a pair and was like, dude, you've got to get these. And I went and tried them on, and I was in the dressing room, and I literally texted Lacey, and I was like, these are sweatpants. These might as well be sweatpants. This is the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Beyond with it, there's no question. So I can't wait to get some more in. I've only got like 2 pair, and I save them. They're like the holy grail of jeans.
And they fit right too. Like usually
they do fit right.
If almost any jean I buy, I have to buy like a 32-inch waist, even though I don't have a 32-inch waist, just so that I could get them over my legs. And with the Hooey ones, I bought a 32 waist and I bought a 31 waist just to kind of see the difference. And I could go with a 31 on those, and like I could probably even go with a 30, honestly, because they're I don't know, the way they build the legs. When I was going to hang them up the other day, I flipped them over and was putting the legs together, and I noticed that like that inseam is a lot more situated towards the front. It's closer to the fly, and I'm wondering if that doesn't have something to do with it. It has like more room for your hips to fit in there. So for a more athletically built guy, they are going to be the ticket for sure. I'm
blown away right now. That Paul is sitting there looking at the inseams of clothes and comparing things, and I'm like, dude, this is...
You should not be surprised. Paul is a chronic overthinker.
I'm not surprised. I'm blown away.
He overanalyzes
it's my
everything.
Superpower.
It's my
this
superpower.
dude's sitting in his fucking room watching Zoolander every day, watching how they design fabrics and shit.
Oh Oh, fashion designer Paul.
Oh, so good.
That's awesome.
No, but yeah, for real, they are the best jeans. They're Kazakh squat proof, and that's how you know.
They are. We have matching hats
today,
too.
That's how you know you can do anything in those jeans. Yep. And when we were at the school and we were doing the sitting to standing mobility test, and I went down the first time with those on, and I was like, "Whoa!" They didn't even hold me up anywhere. I just went straight down to the ground. That was perfect. So I was like, "These things are great." And Sage Kimsey told me that same thing. He's like, "Dude, they're like sweats. You're gonna love them, and they hold starch really well, which is cool." All this to be said, Hooey's badass if you guys didn't know, and use our discount code CHAMPIONLIVING, all one word.
Whatever.
All one word, baby. Yeah, look at our hats. Matching. Well, two of us.
Except for me. Well, at least I have a Hooey hat now, so that's a win.
I'm stoked.
Yep.
I'm going to send you one of these so you have to wear it.
So we all wear it on
All
the
three
same
have
day.
the same hat.
All
on
of
the
us.
podcast.
Every episode.
Oh, that's funny.
That is funny.
No, and
Awesome.
if you are somebody who sweats through your hats, which is everybody in the Western industry, these ones, I think they call them like Odessa
That's a
fabric or
fact.
something. I work out in this hat. Every single day. No sweat stains. I wore it fishing the other day, and like it was hot out, so I dunk it in the river and then put it back on my head.
I did the same thing.
No stains, no marks on it, no nothing. So
No, it's awesome.
Definitely a game changer. You won't have to buy a new hat every couple months.
And also, when I do some of these other ones that aren't the Habitat ones, that are the cloth canvas ones or whatever, I put them in the dishwasher, dude, and just don't put a heated, a heated dry on it, and just put like a quick rinse on, and it makes them like brand new. And I just set them out in the sun. Legit have a brand new hat right there. So little hack for you guys. Or like if I start breaking out real bad on my forehead because I sweated up too bad, if I wear a hat too long, I'm like,
sweatbands holding it all.
Yeah. So I'll just throw it in a dishwasher by itself. Obviously, don't wash it with your food. I mean, with your dishes. You probably could. I mean, it wouldn't matter. Might have some leftovers on it, but
yeah.
That's funny.
But on other news,
man.
Talk about being like working out and using it for functional things. Richie took me to row the raft yesterday, or teach me how to row in the river.
Yeah.
And that was, no, I underestimated it. It was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Working out wise, though, the
workout in.
Yeah. And I could feel that I've been doing a ton of back exercises. And today I wasn't as sore as I thought I was going to be. But definitely during it, dude, I'm talking about I was sweating, like breathing heavy. He's like, it's tough, huh? I'm like, dude, you make it look easy. Yeah, this is way harder than you I thought it was. But it was a lot of fun. And again, just getting out there and trying new things is good for you, I think. Puts you in those situations where you are, dude, I was flustered as shit for the first 30 minutes, like trying to figure it out. And it was, that was good for you. You overcome it and you're like, all right, I got it. And just, I don't know, just feel like it better prepares you for life in general. But get out there and do hard shit, y'all. Even hard shit can be just new stuff. Like it doesn't have to be physically hard. It was everything mentally hard because I was having to think about everything, watching how the water was working. I was trying not to cry because Richie was yelling at me the whole time, and it's just a lot. But in all reality, it's fun to get out there and try new stuff, and that's why I like being fit, because no barriers at that point, right? You can go do and try whatever you want, and I think that's the ultimate goal once you get past the training side for a sport, right? Once we're done with the sport, is like, all right, well, why do you stay fired up? Like, what's going to keep you going to the gym? Well, for me, it's that I want to go do whatever I want to go do, and I don't want to be held back from it. If I want to go hike to the top of the mountain, if I want to go row a boat, whatever, it's sky's the limit. So I think that's my ultimate goal of fitness, at least.
Thank you.
Love that. It's super practical for everybody, really. I mean, there's so much. And the other thing about just training for life is is that, there's been some studies that come out lately, and I've seen a lot of content about it on social media about like the importance of having muscle mass as we age, and just the importance of muscle, like in helping you for preventing falls, and just like your balance and stability and just functional life. And so now, like, man, I mean, you're, old as shit already, but you're, theoretically pretty young, I guess. And so you've got all this time to be able to build.
Are you talking to me right now?
Build and maintain. Well, yes, I am. I yes, I am. It's definitely tongue in cheek, because I'm definitely the oldest one here. I'm pretty sure, but you've got, I mean, you've already laid a huge foundation, and you've been training for years already. You're going to spend the majority of your life training. And that's only going to set you up for success as you age. You're going to be looking around left and right at all the other people at the retirement village that we're going to make sure you go to when you're 65, and and everybody else is going to be having a hard time with just living, But like, man, you're going to be able to go do whatever you want to, because you've put in the time, which is, I think, is, man, that's awesome.
Within the boundaries of my village, apparently.
Yeah, within the boundaries of the villages in Ocala.
The high fence.
That's where we're on top. Alcatraz for
seniors. A mental asylum. Yeah, but we're talking about different things here, dude. Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's funny.
You can see the mountains. You can't go to the mountains. Just stay here.
Talk
it
about
says
punishment.
Great view. Great mountain view.
That's funny.
Man. That is funny. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff. So I've been, I had a talk with a client today. I had 2 clients today, one yesterday and one today. It's morning, so couldn't, hopefully not 2 today, because that would have been, I was on the phone at 5 a.m., but I was on the phone at 6 a.m. But just talking about, like, when you're doing everything you can, or you think you can, and you're just not getting the results you want. And mostly these 2 clients in particular were having to deal with overcoming the challenge of like building muscle, putting on weight. And we were just kind of running through like our standard checklist of what we usually talk to ourselves about, but talk to our clients about things you can look at to make sure you are covering all your bases. And so with that question coming up twice in like 24 hours, I just thought we definitely should knock out an episode about that, because I'm sure they're not the only people dealing with that. And I think it's something really common that probably leads to people stopping their journey, because they're not, I can't blame them. Like, you're not seeing results. You're not getting the results you want, and you're working your ass off. Like, I'd say piss on that too. Yeah, it's frustrating as shit. Yeah, exactly. So let's break it down, and I think we got 4 or 5 steps. I'm not quite sure how many, but we'll kind of find out here by the end. But my number one question, especially for somebody that is trying to build muscle and they're not doing it, and they're consistently strength training, what's your caloric intake? How much are you eating? And both of these athletes were not certain of what their intake was right now, like the exact number. And I said, they just said they were consciously thinking about eating enough protein, eating enough carbs, all of those things. But when it comes to gaining muscle, we've got to talk about there's a huge difference between consuming enough fuel to maintain and then consuming enough fuel to actually promote muscle growth. And when you're at a caloric surplus, which is where you have to be to have that growth, dude, it's hard. It's a lot of food. It's a ton of food. And so we've got to break it down. And, we've talked about recommending starting with protein. We always want to hit that protein goal when we're trying to get our muscle growth increased. But 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is a great goal to start at. And we could, as you get into individualized training and a coach that specializes in that, they can look at, they take a much further look at what your caloric needs are for maybe your sport or whatever you have going on. But in general, I think that's a really good starting place for protein. Paul, what do you think about the importance of carbohydrates Not necessarily like in general, as well, but pre and post workout.
Yeah, I mean, carbohydrates are going to they have a very important role in both pre and post workout. I would say you can feel the difference when you have not had enough carbohydrates throughout the day on what your output looks like on your workout. So like that right there should tell you that, you know, you need to be eating enough carbohydrates before your workout, especially like within that pre-workout time frame, like roughly an hour before. You need to be getting in some carbohydrates, and now not a ton. Like I think we generally recommend like 1 calorie per pound of body weight. So if you're 180 pounds, you need to eat roughly 180 calories in your pre-workout meal, most of that coming from carbohydrates. That's going to provide you enough fuel through the glucose in your body that's going to get you through your workout. At the end of your workout, you also need to replenish those glycogen stores that you've now depleted. So now we need to get in a good amount of carbohydrates. I think what we all three of us do is do the first form protein with the ignition. And so I think 1 scoop of ignition is like 30 grams of carbohydrates. And then if you do 2 scoops of the protein, that's 40 grams of protein. So you have roughly what would that be? Like almost like a 2-to-1 ratio of protein to carbs. So that's going to help then replenish those glycogen stores. And then you have to also, you know, consider your daily intake and maintain that your carbohydrates throughout the day.
I think that's like 1.3 to 1.
Yeah, it's not quite like that would be like 80 to 30 or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 40 grams to 30 grams. So it's not quite. That's a lot lower than I thought. It's closer to 1 to 1. But one thing that I would say on like tracking is a lot of times we talk about using your hand as like a measuring tool for just general awareness around getting in enough food for the day. But there comes a time like when you're struggling with something and you have a really specific goal that you're probably going to have to step it up and actually start tracking, either using pen and paper or using a calorie tracking app. Like something's got to give. Like you're going to have to put in more. If the minimum amount of effort's not getting you where you need to be, like you're going to have to put in more effort to try and get there.
That's really, really important. You've got to really dial it in. And we talk about taking the less I want to call it less serious approach of, you know, at first that can be really intimidating for somebody, but if you're somebody that's already struggling with gaining muscle, you've already been trying these things. The next step is to dial it in more and actually know gram for gram, ounce for ounce, what is going in your body and how your body's responding to it. And I guarantee you're going to see huge results. One thing I want to touch on about increasing your calories is, both of these guys, we kind of wrote down exactly where they were. I said, you're probably about 1,200 to 1,300 calories a day. You're under by a lot. So I looked up got on Mind Pump's macro calculator. That's the one I like to use. I know all of us kind of use different ones, but I plugged in what would a cut look like, and I plugged in what maintaining looked like, and then I plugged in what like a lean gain would look like, right? And so their cut on one of them was like 1,600 calories. I'm like, so you're not even at your cutting calories yet, right? We haven't even hit that. And so you can imagine going from 16 to a maintain, now they're at 2,200 calories. And now on a gain, they're at 25, 2,600 calories. So if I'm starting at 1,400 and I need you to eat 26 to gain weight, there's no way in hell you're going to be able to eat that difference in one day, right? And so something I like to suggest is you've got to start slow, just like the exercising, and you've got to break that down. So I suggest increasing your caloric intake, like maybe 200 a day to start to get to that point. And even if you are someone that's like, I can't take it that serious, I don't want to track, just start increasing it 200 a day from where you're at right now. And you'll start paying attention to how your body's feeling, you're responding, your recovery, all of those things, and you'll be getting closer to being dialed in. But just take slow steps and slow increases so you're not, dude, eating that much food is hard. It's tough.
Yeah.
You've got to, just like exercise, slowly introduce it, and you're going to see great results. And you'll notice your body respond. And my biggest thing when I started eating more is I got way hungrier. like throughout the day. Once I started consistently eating more, my body was like, okay, we're used to it. Let's go. Keep feeding it in. And it got a lot easier to eat what I needed to achieve my goals. And again, it's just all about practice, guys. Y'all just keep practicing and you'll keep getting better at it. None of this is done overnight. None of this is someone just starts doing it one day and is perfect at it. Everyone has their days that slip up. You just got to keep practicing and keep getting her done. What do you guys think about a next step of overcoming a challenge?
I think maybe the most common one that I run into is like a lack of progressive overload. So I find myself a lot of times as a coach, like I'll see numbers that a guy does on a certain lift and like, okay, let's do this again. We'll do the same lift again next week. And it's the same numbers. And it's like, okay, bud, like, let's try and add a little bit weight from last time. Like, let's try and push these boundaries, because if you were able to easily complete that last time, surely you could push a little more this time. So I think having a mind towards like training hard and implementing progressive overload is something that definitely holds people back. So progressive overload is where you are we can do this a number of ways, but it's where you're increasing the intensity of the workout from week to week, whether over the same lift or you're progressing the lift to a more difficult variation. We're doing something that's going to make this week harder than last week. And there's a need for consistently challenging your muscles because they adapt so quickly. Like, they're going to get used to doing that same stimulus all the time. So you need to make it more challenging than last time. So if you do 155 on a back squat this week and you do 155 on a back squat next week, well, now you're pretty well adapted to that. So it's time to bump up the intensity, and you can either add weight to that, you can add reps to that, you can add weight and drop the reps. You can increase it by or increase the difficulty by slowing down the tempo. Like, there's a number of ways to do it, but it has to be more difficult than what you've done before. Otherwise, you're not going to see that muscle growth.
Absolutely, man. And the most simple way that I do that is with my clients. When we're first starting to introduce progressive overload with clients that have never done this or training age is very low, we will just starting with I do the same amount of reps, same amount of sets, and we just try and increase the weight 2.5 to 5 pounds per week. And that's it. We're talking about little increases, but we're increasing that stress, we're increasing the stimulus, and we're getting the results we want there. But you've got to progressively overload to increase your muscle mass. It's a fact. Logan, what about
this is the story of my whole training career up until about 4 years ago. I mean, when I was rodeoing, working out of my garage in New Mexico, I ate 1,500 calories a day because I didn't know any better, and I trained at an extremely high intensity, doing a lot of high intensity stuff with very little weight, and wondered why I could never get any bigger. And so I wasn't using progressive overload. I wasn't using either one of the first two things that we've talked about in my training and trying to get stronger and move more weight. And, one of the things that, we talk about a lot of times, you see guys that are like, okay, they're big bodybuilders and they're, training to failure. There's kind of two schools of thought of like, hey, we need to train to failure all the time, or we don't need to train to failure at all because it discourages recovery if you only train to failure. And I would totally agree with that. But what I find with a lot of our rodeo clients is that their training age, their training experience is so limited that they actually don't know where failure is. And so occasionally, especially at the beginning, I might have them, if I'm testing them on something, just say push-ups, for example, I might have maybe their last set of push-ups, I might have them do max reps, because I want them to feel what it feels like to get really close to failure, if not to failure on something, so that they have at least a ballpark or an understanding in the future. Because typically speaking, I'm going to try to have them stop their progressive overload at 1 to 2 reps from failure, somewhere around about in there. But if they've never been there before, then they're like, oh, that was pretty hard. Well, like, was it really that hard, or did you just think it was that hard? Where's the line at? And so but I definitely think that if you only train to failure, it's going to be really, really easy to overtrain, and your body is going to be so wrecked day in and day out that you're just not going to see the progress that you want. And that's what we see a lot of times with new clients to us that have trained for a long time. They work out 4, 5, 6 days a week, and they train with a lot of volume, and they train to failure pretty regularly, and they're not seeing results.
High intensity,
and
high volume.
Absolutely. And so we back them off, and we have to kind of talk them off the ledge, because we'll train 3 days a week. The volume isn't what they're expecting. The frequency isn't what they're expecting. The rest is more than they're expecting. And they're like, I don't feel like it's enough. I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. And if we can get them to trust us for 4 to 6 weeks, they're like, oh, wow. Okay, I'm seeing crazy results. Absolutely. And so definitely progressive overload is an extremely important part of adding muscle size. You're not going to get bigger muscles or gaining strength without progressive overload. And I would say just, typically speaking, keeping it 1 to 2 reps shy of failures is where the money's at.
Absolutely. And I think something that goes along with that is like a minimum effective dose. So finding out what is the way that I can get the most results with the least effort put in. And we don't mean by like, this is like a cheat or anything like that. We're just saying that we just talked about one side of the spectrum where you're training for, 5, 6 days, high intensity, high frequency, high volume. You're almost entering a state of overtraining or definitely overreaching. And so we want to talk about the other side of the spectrum, which is kind of right in the middle. Well, no, other side would be not doing anything at all. We're going to talk about that middle space where you are putting in work, but you're doing just the right amount for your body to respond in the biggest way. And in between the ears, that is going to be the hardest thing, because you're going to feel like you're not doing enough. And it's just a game, like a mental game. You have to be able to overcome that and be like, no, I know that this is what I'm doing. I know that if you have a coach, you better damn well trust what they're doing with you, because there's reasons for that, right? There's reasons that they have you doing that. And a good thing that I've found is I went from a competitive CrossFit background after Rodeo, which was training 8 days out of the 7 a week. And dude, I loved it.
Multiple times a day too.
Yeah, dude, 2-3 times a day, like training legit 5 to 7 hours a day. It was nuts. It was all I loved doing it because it was filling that void of not Rodeo, and I was competitive at it. Like I really enjoyed that. But there came a time after about 4 years, and I was like, dude, I am torched. Like my body is wrecked, and this is doing the opposite thing that I need it to do and not helping me feel better, right? And so when I was coming off of that and learning about overtraining and overreaching and overtraining syndrome, when I realized how many CrossFitters definitely had that, but that's basically you're just exercising yourself beyond your point of maintenance. Like your body can't maintain. You're losing hormone function, tons of not good things. But to get out of that, you have to chill out and have to go to much less intense exercise, way less frequent. And at first it's a little bit of a mind fuck, but you kind of get through that and start realizing that your body's feeling so much better, because instead of working out 5 or 6 days a week, you're doing 2 or 3 days a week, focusing on full body workouts, quality of movement versus quantity of movement, and really, really paying attention to those little specific groups that you weren't paying attention to when you were going full speed on everything. And what that let me do was, I took, 6 to 10 reps a set, really focused on tempos, and progressively overloading as I was doing that each week. And for me, it was different. The weights I progressively overload, but a lot of this stuff was like mobility type exercises. I'd be slowing the tempos down to get more out of it, and change that out. And I could feel my mobility was increasing as I would increase those tempos. Especially when I was able to move full speed after about 8 weeks of that, my body was moving so much better. It never felt any better, but it was also a big alarm or, sign to me that, hey, you only worked out 2 or 3 times a week for the last 8 weeks. And it was maybe 60 minutes and you really paid attention to the small things and the quality of movement. And now you're going to be able to go back and exercise like you want to, but realize that you don't have to go back to this crazy spectrum, and unless it's your sport, unless that's your goal, right? And that's kind of where my goal shifted.
Yeah, I think that this is the hardest point for most people. I know that it is for me, this minimum effective dose, because especially once you start to see some results, you're like, okay, a little bit has been good, and so more must be better. And I am still like, I still struggle with this. Yesterday, I did a lower body and I did legs, and I was like, I wrote it out, like, this is what I'm going to go do. And I worked the plan, and man, I got into it and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm feeling great. And I got done and I had to walk up some stairs, and I pretty much had to crawl up them. I was like, okay, that was too much. I am wrecked today. I am absolutely wrecked today from my leg day. And I even posted on my story. I was like, on paper, it was awesome. In reality, way too much, because we just have that tendency to like, go, do. And not sometimes, when it comes to resistance training, more is not always better.
Yeah, and that's because like the way a minimum effective dose works is like we want to challenge the muscles enough to drive an adaptation and break them down just a little bit. But then one of the most important aspects of building muscle is your recovery. And so if you're pushing beyond that limit too much, or beyond that minimum amount of work that you need to do, you're impeding on your body's ability to recover. And so there's a fine line between working a consistent minimum effective dose schedule and not doing enough to where we're recovering too much, we're not driving enough adaptation. And so then that kind of brings me to the other thing, is like, you still have to be consistent. Like we need to have a consistent workout schedule. So if you're going to commit to 3 days a week, commit to 3 days a week. Don't go in we tend to not go in the opposite of what Logan was saying. Like, we think a little is good, more must be better. We tend to not think a little is good, less must be better. So we're kind of a little bit protected from that. Just the way our minds work, especially as rodeo people. But there's probably a whole nother population out there where, they are not really inclined to working out. They don't necessarily want to work out. And so they're going to be a lot more apt to fall off the wagon, so to speak. And so maintaining that consistency is going to be super, super important. Having a way to track the progress that you're making is going to be very important. I think we talked about this on the last episode too, as far as tracking progress. So, but like being able to work that 3 day a week schedule, or 4 day a week schedule, or even 2 day a week schedule, whatever it is, like you need to either use a scale, use tape measurements, use pictures, use something that's going to let you know that you are on the right track. And especially if you're doubting, like you're going from a 6 or 7 day a week training schedule and you're going down to a 3 day a week training schedule, and you're doubting like the why behind it, or if it's actually going to work, you need to track, because that's going to help you stay consistent with that schedule. Because after, I think Logan said, like 4 to 6 weeks, like you're definitely going to notice some changes there. Like it's going to be for real. And on the same token as consistently training, like you need to have consistent sleep as well. For most people, adequate sleep is 7 to 9 hours per night. So making sure that you're blocking in the time that you actually have to rest and sleep and recover, that could a lot of times be the one thing that's holding people back from building muscle, is that they're just not, they might be training right, they might be eating right, but they're not recovering correctly.
Huge step there, man. And definitely overlooked in a lot of stuff, in a lot of folks training. And I think most people just don't think it's that important. They see you got to go work, you got to go sweat. All right, you got to eat kind of well. All right, that's it. No, you've got to sleep, and creating that good sleep habit. We should do another episode soon on sleep environment and stuff, because I've really, really been dialing that in, and it's nuts. Dude, talk about, my HRV was 63 today. I was like, who stole my Whoop last night and put it on themselves? Because this is not mine. Like, what? Like, getting like Jeffrey Button or whatever, that guy gets younger. getting healthier as I get older.
Jeffrey Button. It's like a mix of Jeffrey Dahmer and Benjamin Button.
I was going to say that, but I was like, that sounds like a serial killer. I don't think I want to say that.
That's hilarious. But that sleep, it's not just the sleep, you know, like once you get dialing it in, you've got like a bedtime routine, you know, like most people have like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Like once, at least for me, it's 30 minutes to an hour of like kind of winding down. I might be doing some stretching. I might be doing some reading. Like I've typically got my phone. I don't have my phone on me. I'm not watching TV. I'm trying to like wind down. So if I'm going to get 8 hours and I have an hour wind down, now it's 9 hours of my day that's going to be devoted to sleep. And then I probably have like a 30-minute morning like wake up routine in which I like am maybe going to drink a cup of coffee, have a little bit of breakfast, do a little bit of reading, just kind of like let my mind get going before I actually you know, I know Paul does his wake water walk, you know, so he might, like, the sun's up, he goes and goes for a little walk. Like, I mean, it's not hard to have 10 hours out of a 24-hour day wrapped around recovery when you're really dialing it in and you're trying to focus on making sure that I'm getting the most out of my workouts, which is, in our culture, it's really difficult to do because we are such a go culture. And if you're resting, then you're getting left behind, which is not always the case. What I tell clients is sometimes a step forward might feel like a step back, but it's really not.
Yeah. If you want to get the most out of your other 14 hours of the day, like, you need to dedicate that, you know, 9 to 10 hours to recovery. The sleep when you're dead mentality is very destructive, because then you're not getting the most out of your waking hours at that point, because you're either struggling to stay awake, you're reaching for caffeine. Oh shoot, you overreached on caffeine. Now you're all jittery and don't feel well. Now you're on the toilet for an hour. Like, there's all kinds of, like, there's a downward slide that goes with the mentality of, like, I'll sleep when I'll sleep when I'm dead, because you're not functioning optimally throughout the day. Whereas if you just took that step back, focus on recovery, now you're operating all day long at a higher level than you were before, and you're even going to be able to get more done than you were when you were, you know, overtired.
Can I give one example really quick? I just want to, like, so personally, my life this summer, I've been helping with, we've talked about it on the podcast, I've been helping with a local rodeo company. They put on fair rodeos, and they're around Southern Illinois, so typically 2-3 hours away, not too far. But what the issue is that I've been helping set up and tear down, and I judge for them, and it's at a fair, so there might be a truck and tractor pull. If the rodeo's on Friday, Thursday night there was a truck and tractor pull, so it's not done and off the track until 11 p.m. That's when we can start setting up. So we might leave at 8 p.m., drive there, get there at 10:30. At 11 p.m., we can set up Thursday night, get done at 2, drive 2.5 hours back. I'm in bed by, 4:30. And so then I wake up, I go back up there to the rodeo, we judge, we tear down afterwards again. Friday night, Saturday morning, I'm not getting home till 5:30. And I might have 1 of those a week, 2 of those a week. So my summertime, instead of being like, okay, I'm going to get 5 hours of rest, sleep from 5:30 to, or 4:30 to 9:30 or whatever, and call it good. And I'm just going to still make sure I can't go backwards. So I got to go in the gym. Sometimes I'm getting 1 workout in a week, depending on our rodeo schedule. But a lot of times it's 2, because I'm not going to train on a day in which I'm not going to go to bed at 4:30. I'm also not going to train on a day in which I got in bed that morning at 4:30. You know what I'm saying? So the day before, the day after, the day of the rodeo, I'm not getting workouts in, because I know that my body won't be able to adapt and actually see results from that. And so it feels, this summer, it's felt like a little bit of a step back in my personal training, but I know that I'm doing what's best for my body, and I'm actually setting myself up to see long-term results by backing off the intensity a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's it. That's just maturity. That's just a lot of experience. Now you've had 4 years of growth in that area, and you understand, how it all works, and you realize that me going to kill myself and doing all this other stuff it's just not going to work. It's going to be detrimental to what we're doing. I think that's a great example, man. To kind of wrap this up, I just want to cover everything we just went over. So if you're having trouble putting on muscle, look at your calorie intake. Make sure you are in a caloric surplus. If you do not know what that is, go check out a macronutrient calculator. Again, we use Mind Pumps. They're the closest thing we found to when we do it by hand in the actual equation. So go check them out. You can plug in, whether you need to gain muscle, lose weight, maintain, whatever, and they'll give you a good starting place. Make sure you're progressive overloading with your exercises. That is increasing the weight over the weeks, slowly but effectively, and then minimum effective dose. That is not, we're just talking about, it's hard to go that hard. But if you're someone that is training 5-6 days a week, start looking at the minimum effective dose it takes to actually get the results that you want. And I think starting out somewhere around 2 to 3 days a week, especially if you're a beginner, or again, someone coming off of this other side of the spectrum that's super intense, full body workouts, really focusing on those little areas that you've neglected in your training in the past to kind of help improve your recovery. Last thing is be consistent, guys. You've got to be consistent in anything you're doing. And whatever that is going to look different for everyone on their time frames, but figure out what you can do consistently, successfully, every day, every week, that you have it planned out to do, and get after it. There's no excuses. Just get it done. And I just can't highlight the importance of just being patient and persistent when you are trying to gain muscle. It takes time. It takes years. None of us have gotten to where we are at overnight. I've been training consistently for over a decade now. That's all it is to it. It just takes time. And I found that if I can consistently get 30 minutes in a day, 3 to 4, if I'm lucky, 5 will be a mobility day. But 3 days a week at a bare minimum, I'm good. And some weeks that doesn't happen. Some weeks I get 2, some weeks I get none, but I always get back to it. So make sure you're being consistent, guys, persistent and patient. Cannot thank you all enough for tuning in today. Guys, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, questions, any suggestions for future podcast topics. And also, we'd love to share your success with you. If you guys have any transformation pictures, or your posting workouts, tag us on Instagram. We'd love to see it. Love to hype you up, gas you up, and get you pumped up to keep going. Speaking of that, keeping going, we can't thank Beastmaster Rodeo enough for keeping us going and keeping us on the air, sponsoring our show. And man, they've been an outstanding partner. They are the best rodeo gear in any rodeo, elite rodeo, youth rodeo, whatever you need. They've got everything you need, and they'll get it out to you quick. Check them out, beastmasterrodeo.com. You can use our discount code CHAMPIONLIVING, all one word. Going to save you 10% on all of their products. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.